What is going on, guys? We are live on YouTube, about to hop into another Best Ball Mania 3 draft, $25 entry, $2 million first place prize. This is going to be the one, guys. I got a good feeling about this stream. Going to be hopping live on YouTube as well. And we got 10 spots to fill in this draft right now. I'm going live on TikTok as well. I'm going to be looking this way, most of YouTube live, but I will do my best to get to the comments. As always, happy Thursday, guys. It's also NBA draft night, so lots to look forward to tonight. How's it going, everybody? We got 10 spots to fill, and then we will be going into this draft right away. What's going on, guys? About to hop into another Best Ball Mania 3 draft. We got 11 spots to fill if you are looking to hop into a draft with your boy. How are we all doing on this wonderful Thursday? This is $25 draft. This is the $25 draft for the $2 million first place prize. How's it going, Yards? Happy Thursday. Audio's a bit weird. Oh no, it's probably the headphones. Wait 1 second. The audio should be better now. Let me know if it is. Appreciate that. Yards, it's going fantastic, man. I got a very good feeling about this draft. We're about to hop into live on YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, we're about to hop into a live draft over on YouTube. This is a real draft. What do you think about KJ Hamler this year? Kyle's asking in the TikTok live. He is one of the fastest players in the NFL. Do I think that's going to mesh well with one of the best deep ball throwers of all time, Russell Wilson? Yeah, that's probably going to mesh pretty well. But I still think he's number 4 on the depth chart on a team that's going to run the ball a lot. And so for that reason, I don't see any consistency in fantasy for KJ Hamler this year. But I don't hate him in best ball drafts in like rounds 16 through 20. How do I get into the WalterPicks League? I'm a fantasy demon and have league wins back-to-back. The people in the 32-person fantasy WalterPicks League are the 32 TikTok content creators on the WalterPicks team. So you'll be able to follow along with that league throughout the season on TikTok, but you got to be a part of the team to be in a league. Have you seen Adam Rank's record predictions video? No, I have not seen that. Do you think the Kings will pick at – who do you think the Kings will pick at 4? I have not been following – the NBA draft stuff entirely closely. What's going on? What's going on, Luke? Name is Sam. Classic mistake. Don't worry about it. But the NBA draft is going to be exciting tonight. I'm most excited. I think I'm most excited for Chet Holmgren, who's already stated he thinks he's the best player in the NBA. You got to love that type of confidence from a prospect. I think he was, in my opinion, the best college basketball player this past year. In my March Madness research, I felt pretty strongly about that. What do you think about the Packers receiver room? Who's the clear-cut number 1? Yeah, right now it's Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard, right now, in my mind, is the clear-cut number 1 for the Green Bay Packers. And Aaron Rodgers was actually asked about this recently. And he just blatantly stated who he sees as the top 3 receivers. So I thought that was pretty telling. They asked Aaron Rodgers, who are the top 3 receivers on the Green Bay Packers? His response was Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, and Sammy Watkins. And Sammy Watkins hadn't even shown up to OTAs yet. So that's the 3 receivers that Rodgers is expecting to play with. Obviously, they spent a high draft pick on Christian Watson. He'll have a good shot to supplant any of those 3 guys. He'll be on the outside, though, so Randall Cobb might be safe in the slot. But I would expect about halfway through the season for it to be Allen Lazard, Christian Watson, Randall Cobb. That's what I'm expecting. Amari Rodgers and Dubes have actually made some noise in OTAs, but I mean, what we saw from Amari Rodgers last year, I don't know how you could feel very good about him making very many strides. Kings are trading pick to the Knicks for Randall, according to XD Quasar in the YouTube live. And we are about to do a live draft on YouTube where you can see the draft. We're live on YouTube. And you just look up WalterPicks on YouTube if you're watching live on TikTok, or go to the TikTok bio, click on the YouTube link. You're just a few presses away. We're live on YouTube and TikTok. I'll talk to the draft on TikTok as well. We have only 8 spots left to fill in this draft. And the first place prize in this tournament is $2 million. Paulo is the best player in this draft. I could see that. I could see an argument for that. I think any of the top 4 or 5 you could make an argument for. But to me, I'm most excited about Cole Komet Holmgren. I feel good about this draft too. My brother's getting married right now, so I have high hopes for this draft. Yarsman, man, get out of the YouTube live. Your brother's getting married. This is not the place to be. But congrats. Hey, Sam, I'm first. You can expect me a ton this whole season throughout. Corey, that's what I'm talking about. I love the content. Thoughts on tight ends this season? Where should I draft tight end? Yeah, I absolutely love Jameson Crowder Elite. Yeah, I've been drafting him still in fantasy too. He's gonna eat on the Bills. But yeah, I love talking tight end strategy because tight end and quarterback strategy is more or less where I think your fantasy football strategy should begin. I think when you are initially thinking about your fantasy football strategy going into drafts, it simplifies the strategy to just think about the positions where you only need one guy first, and that's quarterbacks and tight ends traditionally. So let's talk about tight ends first, because I do have a pretty clear-cut tight end strategy this year, similar to how I did last year. And if you're watching live on YouTube, you can see the top tight ends based on average draft position on the screen right now. If you're not watching live on YouTube, don't know what you're waiting for, going over to WalterPicks at YouTube. But I do like Travis Kelce in the back end of the first, early second round, especially in PPR formats. There's no Tyreek Hill. So we can expect similar stuff from Kelce this season as we've seen over the last 3 years. Him and Mark Andrews are going to be competing to be the number one overall tight end. But the third guy that has a good shot to be the number one overall tight end, it's Kyle Pitts this year. And so my general strategy this season is, if I'm not going to take Travis Kelce back into the first, beginning of the second, and typically I haven't been doing that in the back end of the first because I'd prefer CeeDee Lamb. I would prefer Dalvin Cook, who have also been falling to the 12th, 13th pick in the drafts I've been doing. Then I'm going to try to get Kyle Pitts in the third round. And he's actually been falling to the fourth round in some of the recent drafts I've been doing. That's even better. But I'm happy to take Kyle Pitts middle of the third, back into the third round. And the reason for this is he's really the only tight end in the league not named Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews who is going to eclipse or have a chance to eclipse a 30% target share this season. I know there's concerns. Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder. Do we trust these guys with the ability to sustain production for Kyle Pitts, who, by the way, Kyle Pitts underperformed fantasy expectation last year, but he overperformed actual tight end expectation. He had one of the best rookie tight end seasons of all time, and he is one of the earliest selected tight ends in the history of the NFL draft. Both of things are boding very well for Kyle Pitts. But then you dig a little deeper into the concerns about Marcus Mariota, and I do expect Marcus Mariota to start for the Atlanta Falcons for at least the beginning part of the season. And you go back and you look at his first seasons with the Tennessee Titans, and you look at the tight end position on those teams. Let me, in the chat, does anyone know who played tight end for the Tennessee Titans when Marcus Mariota was first there? Let's see if anyone can get this in the chat before I explain a little bit deeper into the Marcus Mariota, Kyle Pitts stuff. Is Will Fuller playing this year? Yeah, I think he will. I'm still surprised he hasn't signed to a team. Delaney Walker, yeah, good stuff. TikTok live. No one in the YouTube live, I got it. But yeah, it was Delaney Walker, and Delaney Walker was the number one receiver on the Titans in each of the first 3 seasons with Marcus Mariota. He eclipsed or was right around 1,000 yards twice, and he either led the team or tied for the most receptions on the team each of those seasons. So I'm not going to be surprised when we see something similar with Marcus Mariota. All right, guys, the draft is live. We are live on YouTube. The draft is about to start. I got the 9th overall pick, which we'll see how it goes. I have a good feeling Najee Harris will be on the board at that point. Najee Harris I've seen slide as far as 12th, 13th overall in recent drafts. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him there. I've seen Derrick Henry actually fall pretty far in some recent drafts as well. But these are more or less the guys I'll be hoping will slide to me at that pick if you're watching live on YouTube. What is your QB and tight end strat? Yeah, so generally speaking, my tight end strategy is I want Kyle Pitts in the 3rd round. If I don't get Kyle Pitts in the 3rd round, I want Dalton Schultz in the 6th round because Dalton Schultz has top 3 tight end upside. He finished 5th in tight end fantasy points per game last season, and now Amari Cooper is gone. So I'm feeling very, very optimistic about Dalton Schultz, and right now he's going around 70th overall, which is in the 5th, 6th round of drafts. If I miss on him, then I'm basically going to punt the position entirely, and I'll take tight ends very late in the draft. I'll be looking for guys very late in the draft, like Noah Fant, who's going in like the 12th, 13th, sometimes later than that rounds. He's going 170th overall. He could be a big part of the Seahawks passing game this year, or Evan Ingram, who I expect to be a pretty big part of the Jaguars passing game. But neither of those guys are locks. But it doesn't matter because I'm just going to take them super late. So I'm aiming for Kyle Pitts round 3, Dalton Schultz round 6. Otherwise, I'm likely punting the position. And I'm not going to shy away from Kelsey back into the first, early second round either. But I'm not taking very much Mark Andrews or Darren Waller or George Kittle because I prefer the value I'm getting with Kyle Pitts in the third round. That's my general tight end strategy. As for quarterbacks, I'm starting to open up to the idea of being the first one to take a quarterback in drafts this year. If it's in round 3 or later, I will take Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the best combination of rushing upside and passing upside. Lamar Jackson has a better rushing upside than Josh Allen, but Josh Allen could also lead the league in passing. So he really does separate himself from the rest of the quarterbacks in that sense. He's the most consistent and he has the highest upside sort of by far. So I'm okay taking Josh Allen in the third round as the first QB off the board. But if I don't do that, if he will likely go earlier than that in your season-long leagues, then I want to be the guy who gets the last of whoever's left out of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. And I'd honestly include Jalen Hurts in that list as well. I actually think in Walter's projections for next season right now, we have Jalen Hurts projected as our number 4 quarterback. Thoughts on Russell Gage? Yeah, I absolutely I'm loving me some Russell Gage in drafts right now. Derrick Henry and Najee Harris have slid to me at the 9th overall pick in this draft. We're doing live over on YouTube. I have not drafted Derrick Henry very much, but I'm going to do so in this draft. Najee just feels so much safer to me. We're going with Najee over Derrick Henry. I don't feel good about that. I've done that plenty of times in drafts so far. Travis Kelce goes 10th overall. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can see the draft board as it's happening. I just took Najee Harris with the 9th overall pick. Wow, look, only 4 running backs going in the first round. What do you think about Alvin Kamara? I think he's one of the most talented running backs we've seen in the NFL when you consider his abilities as a receiver. I am nervous, though, that he could get suspended at the beginning part of this season. I was just reading some updates about that actually this morning, and it sounds like the legal proceedings for Alvin Kamara have been pushed back to the point where there's a good chance this actually isn't a problem this season for him, but he could get suspended next season for what happened, the incident that happened right around the time of the Pro Bowl, if you remember that. But apparently there's also a video of the incident that just looks really, really bad. And nobody's seen this video. But if the video gets out before this season, there's almost a definite suspension coming for Alvin Kamara. All right, I'm back on the clock. I don't really want to go with Mark Andrews, but I'm going to do it because I haven't taken it very much in Best Ball Mania 3. So we got Najee Harris, Mark Andrews with our first 2 picks. As I was talking about my tight end strategy, but I'm sort of in the back end of this draft. There's a pretty good chance Kyle Pitts won't be there for me with my next pick. So I went with Mark Andrews, and now I'm only going to draft 2 tight ends in this draft. I think he might be able to start the season. Yeah, I think Alvin Kamara has a pretty good shot, though, not to get suspended. To me, it seems like if the video comes out for Alvin Kamara, he's getting suspended. If not, he's not going to get suspended this season at least. That was my takeaways from the updates that I got this morning. But regardless, if he's playing a full season, yeah, Alvin Kamara top 5 running back in fantasy. Even though there's a lot of added competition for targets in New Orleans this season. Where is Lamar going usually? What's going on, Ike? If you take a look over on YouTube, Lamar Jackson's right now going as the 4th quarterback off the board on average, 52nd overall. So divide that by how many people in your league, and you can get the round. But yeah, he's going about 5th round in most drafts, and he's actually been sliding a decent amount. Lamar and Kyler, I would say, are sliding probably a little bit too far in fantasy drafts right now, given their rushing upside. They have way more rushing upside than Mahomes and Herbert. Obviously not the same passing upside. But yeah, both guys are just fantasy football cheat codes. How's your lineup looking so far? Just tuned in. It's looking pretty good. And you can watch the draft board live on YouTube. But I had the 9th overall pick. My first 2 picks, Najee Harris, Mark Andrews. So I'm feeling pretty good about how the draft has been starting. It is draft time. It is always draft time. Thoughts on Chase Edmonds? Yeah, I do like Chase Edmonds a lot. He's one of my favorite mid to late round sleeper running backs. In my mind, he's one of the last starting running backs getting drafted in drafts right now on an offense that I think is going to be much better. And Chase Edmonds has been one of the most efficient running backs in the league. And I know it's been on limited touches, but Chase Edmonds was top 10 in the league in yards per touch each of the last 2 seasons. So increase the workload. And as long as he doesn't drop too much in efficiency, it's pretty easy to see the path for Chase Edmonds being a running back 2 in fantasy, especially in PPR leagues. And the draft I'm doing right now is actually half PPR. Where do you find the video at? Which video? Which video, Lucas, are you talking about? How do you feel about Rashad Bateman? I am excited for Rashad Bateman. And I was also just very excited about hearing his comments. I felt like he was saying all the right things with the Marquise Brown departure. Rashad Bateman's ready to step into a bigger role for the Ravens. And the thing you got to understand about Rashad Bateman, too, is he didn't get a full rookie season. He's one of the most talented second-year wide receivers who didn't get a full rookie season, but now is stepping into a much, much larger role in year 2 with no Marquise Hollywood Brown, who led the team in targets last season. So, yeah, I'm excited for Rashad Bateman. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. And it's another way. Drafting Rashad Bateman in fantasy is just another way to bet on Lamar Jackson, which is always a good bet in fantasy. You want to be betting on Lamar Jackson in fantasy football, regardless of what you think about him as an actual NFL player. In fantasy football, he is a complete cheat code, and he's a better passer than he gets credit for. How do you feel about Debo this year? Yeah, so the only concerns I've had for Debo really all offseason is this contract situation, which I'm becoming less and less worried about. There was recent reports that he has already reported to the 49ers facility, but he hasn't started actually participating yet. I don't really know exactly what that means. It sounds like he's just standing off to the side, but he's there. What I say, by the way, Kyle Pitts just got picked one pick before I'm on the clock, and I will gladly take Keenan Allen with this next pick, one of the most steadfast receivers in the NFL, attached to one of the ascending talents in the league, Justin Herbert, who has a very good chance to lead the league in passing this season. Do you like Aaron Jones in the late second? Yeah, I definitely do. Are you worried about the running back competition in Miami, though? Yeah, I'm absolutely worried about it. I think it will be a thing in Miami, but that's all priced into Chase Edmonds' cost. This is the thing you got to understand. He's going in the 9th round, 8th round. That's why he's the last starting running back drafted in fantasy. That's why he's going so late. So yeah, I'm comfortable taking Chase Edmonds with where he's getting drafted. I would never spend a 5th, 6th round pick on him because Sony Michel is probably going to be involved. Sony Michel actually grew up in the Miami area, so I'm excited for him to join the Dolphins. But I also expect Raheem Mostert to be involved, and Myles Gaskin's still there too, and he's been pretty productive in his short time in the league as well. All right, I'm about to be back up on the clock. I will take Zeke with this next pick if he's available. And as much as you can be concerned about Ezekiel Elliott based on how he looked last season, love your content, man. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate that, man. I appreciate the positivity. But as much as you can be concerned about Zeke, he's going in the 4th round. He was a top 5 pick in fantasy last year. He played every single game. He was one of only 4 running backs in the league last year to play every single game. And yeah, he looked horrible, but he was playing through a PCL injury in his knee. And they were still feeding him the ball, and he was still scoring touchdowns. And by all reports, he's now past that injury, and he's fully healthy. And he has one of the most massive running back contracts in the history of the league. So they're going to continue to feed Zeke the ball, regardless of how much more efficient Tony Pollard is. So in the 4th round, you can sign me up for Ezekiel Elliott. Harris, Swift, Mixon, in my opinion. Yeah, I know. I think I would probably agree with that, Jack. How would you rank Swift, Mixon, Harris? Yeah, I would probably say Swift first. Sorry, Harris first, Swift second, Mixon third. In a PPR league, definitely. If you're watching the draft I'm doing live on YouTube right now, Joe Mixon actually went 1 pick before DeAndre Swift. There's actually a report today that I read that said that the Cincinnati Bengals are likely to stick to only playing Joe Mixon on 1st and 2nd down, which they did in the back half of last season. In the first half of last season, Joe Mixon was playing a lot of 3rd downs. And in the back half of last season, he almost never played on 3rd downs. And then we saw it in the Super Bowl, where literally the last play of the game was just a pass thrown to one of their least efficient players in the league, Samaje Perine, who could probably lose that 3rd down role heading into this upcoming season to Chris Evans. So if Joe Mixon's not playing on 3rd downs, I'm definitely taking DeAndre Swift over him in all formats, even though the Bengals offense is going to be better than the Lions offense. I think Jones and Dillon will be close to 50-50 split. Dillon gets a good amount of passing reps. Yeah, I'm so excited for A.J. Dillon this season because he is a legitimate league-winning fantasy football pick. Because not only he's the perfect archetype of running back you want to be targeting in fantasy football, especially at his cost, where you're past the starting running backs. And the running backs left on the board are a lot of people will view them as handcuffs, but there's really two different types of running backs left after all the starters are drafted. There's running backs that are going to have standalone value, even if there's no injuries on their team. And then there's running backs that need an injury to actually become relevant in fantasy football. And A.J. Dillon's definitely the former of those two things. He is going to be a running back 2/3 in fantasy football, at least, even with a healthy Aaron Jones, because he has a clear path to 12+ touchdowns on a team without Devontae Adams. But then in this scenario where Aaron Jones gets injured, you're going to win your league. A.J. Dillon's going to be a top 10 running back in fantasy football. And yeah, he's already proven he can be a decent receiver in the NFL. So yeah, I absolutely love A.J. Dillon this season. The Quadzilla is going to carry people to fantasy championships this year. What round for Kadarius Toney? He's going pretty late right now. I haven't been drafting him very much, but he definitely has upside in terms of talent. I'm just very nervous about the volume with the contract that Kenny Golladay has. They drafted Wan'Dale Robinson and Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton still there, obviously. All right, we're back on the clock. I will definitely strongly consider one of these two guys with my next pick, but I'm going to draft actually Darnell Mooney here. Darnell Mooney is a guy that I desperately want to be ahead of the market on. You look at the numbers for Darnell Mooney, and he is going to, as long as he stays healthy, there's a very good chance he finishes top 10 in the league in air yards this season. And he has very, very little competition for targets. He already has established the connection with Justin Fields. I'm a big fan of Darnell Mooney this season. Allen Robinson is no longer on the Bears, and they replaced him with basically nobody. I think Velus Jones is who they drafted in the draft, but he's more of a project than a guy that can step in and take over the Allen Robinson role, which really wasn't that sizable. Allen Robinson actually got picked one pick after Darnell Mooney in this draft, if you're watching live on YouTube. But yeah, Darnell Mooney has a very, very clear path to being a top 12 wide receiver, especially in PPR leagues. But as long as he can increase the touchdown total, which he's due for some positive touchdown regression based on his targets and his air yards, he can easily be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. So yeah, I absolutely love Darnell Mooney. And he also has age on his side as well, only heading into his 3rd season. Bears can never stay on the field though, and Fields is not it. I'm not fully convinced that Fields is not it. And he actually has proven to have a decent deep ball in comparison to some of the other second-year quarterbacks. But Justin Fields and really all of the quarterbacks heading into year 2, don't sleep on them. At least some of them are going to take massive leaps in year 2. And why not Justin Fields, who already has the rushing ability? And Kyler Murray gets taken with the pick right before mine. So I will gladly take Jalen Hurts. And with taking a tight end early, quarterback early, now I only need 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends on this team. We have Jalen Hurts ranked as our number 4 overall quarterback heading into the season. He was number 2 in the league in rushing yards per game last year, only behind Lamar Jackson. He adds A.J. Brown, and he fits the bill of a guy that also can just take a huge leap as a passer. How do I feel about A.J. Brown this year? I'm a very adamant believer that A.J. Brown, top 10 talented wide receiver in the league. I might even put him in my top 6. But from a fantasy football perspective, I'm a little nervous for A.J. Brown this season. I am nervous because he's heading to one of the most run-heavy teams in the league. It won't be surprising if the Eagles finish top 3 in rush percentage this season. They want to run the ball, and they really showed that last year with how they used Jalen Hurts and the backfield. So if he's on the most run-heavy team in the league, and he's also on a team with a quarterback that has historically loved throwing to his tight ends, Dallas Goedert had a massive target share last season, and I don't see that changing that much. It might be tough for A.J. Brown to put up consistent wide receiver 1 numbers. I think he'll still be a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. He's still going to have some massive weeks. He's still going to have some massive plays because he's an absolute baller. But the volume might not be there as much for him on the Eagles as it was for the Titans. He also has a much better wide receiver 2 behind him in Devontae Smith than he ever did in Tennessee. Who's the starting running back in Houston from week 8 on? From week 8 on, man, like that definitely throws Marlon Mack, far out the window, I would say. I would be surprised if he's doing anything relevant by week 8 and on. I won't be shocked if Marlon Mack gets some run early in the season, though. It's either going to be Rex Burkhead or Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce feels like the best bet to make in fantasy because he's the rookie, and we sort of know Rex Burkhead and the rest of that backfield aren't anything special. Rex Burkhead did have that one monster week in fantasy last season, though. But outside of that, I don't think he scored over 10 points a single time. So yeah, I guess I would bet on Dameon Pierce, but it wouldn't shock me if it's Rex Burkhead either. I sort of think the Texans will have a rotating backfield the majority of the season, though. Eagles bringing back Foles for another Super Bowl. I could definitely see it. I could definitely see the Eagles making a run. I think the Eagles have a very good shot at the NFC East this season. How do you feel about J.K. Dobbins? Ricky asking in the YouTube and TikTok live, I think. I like J.K. Dobbins. He got drafted in the 5th round in the draft I'm doing right now. I think I would prefer Elijah Mitchell over J.K. Dobbins. I think I would prefer Cam Akers over J.K. Dobbins too. But after those two guys, there's no running back that's been taken after him in this draft that I like more than J.K. Dobbins. He was one of the most efficient running backs in the league. I actually think he might have led the league in yards per carry as a rookie. It was like 6 yards per carry almost. And he obviously suffers the injury last year, but he's going to be on the most run-heavy team in the league. So, yeah, I like him as one of the most efficient backs in the league, who's probably going to see around 15 carries a game once he's fully healthy. But there's really no passing game upside with J.K. Dobbins, which makes him much less attractive to me in PPR leagues, where I really want guys that have a path to receptions. And J.K. Dobbins just doesn't have a path to receptions. He has to get everything done on the ground, which will make him more touchdown dependent in fantasy football, which is why he's going, though, like in the 5th, 6th round. I think I'd prefer him in the 6th, though, than the 5th. All right, we are back on the clock. Let's take a look at these wide receivers. There's no running backs really jumping out at me that I'm going to reach for here. I'm going to go with Hunter Renfrow. I'll strongly consider Christian Kirk with my next pick, as well as Kenneth Walker and Clyde. I can't draft Michael Thomas. I've said this on the live streams so far. I'm not drafting Michael Thomas until we see Michael Thomas just step on a football field and actually practice or actually play. I just want to see him play. And until he plays, I can't do it. I can't draft Michael Thomas. He's right now the player that has the lowest average draft position that's left. I've refused to do it until we see him playing. Then I'll start drafting him again. I believe in the talent of Michael Thomas, but I can't draft someone that's hasn't been on the field in 2 years and he's still not able to practice. I don't understand how that is possible. He's had a foot injury for a full 2 years. He already had surgery. He had the entire year off last year, and he's still not able to practice. So until he's practicing, I'm avoiding him at all costs in fantasy. And I will take Kenneth Walker with this next pick if he doesn't get picked one pick before me. Do you think McCaffrey's a risky pick? No. Not that much more risky than any other of the running backs in the first round. Not that much more. Is he slightly more risky than Najee Harris? Yeah, definitely. Is he slightly more risky than Austin Eckler? Sure. Those two guys don't have the same injury history that he has. But all running backs have a pretty high rate of injury. Again, there's only like 4 running backs last year. Only 4 running backs that had at least 5 carries in every game. Only 4. And one of those was Zeke, and he dealt with injuries himself, so he sort of barely counts. Joe Mixon was one of those guys. And Joe Mixon was a guy that before last season, everyone just assumed he would get hurt because he had struggled with injuries in the past. And that did not end up happening. So I'm not avoiding Christian McCaffrey. I'm taking him with the 2nd overall pick every single time that he is there. And I don't think you're crazy for considering him with the 1st overall pick. And if he's there at 3rd overall, there's no thought process to even be had there. And if he's available any pick after that, you're drafting with some really really bad league mates. So yeah, I think I'm not. While he might be a tiny bit more risky than everyone in the 1st round, the upside outweighs the risk because the upside is the best fantasy football season of all time. Christian McCaffrey is the only player in the league that can score 20 fantasy points consistently without scoring touchdowns. This is the thing. People are like, oh, he's on a bad offensive line. Carolina Panthers could be bad this season, but it doesn't matter for Christian McCaffrey because he gets 10 catches, 8 catches a game in several games throughout the year. And then he gets around 100 yards between rushing and receiving, and boom, he's at 20 points. And then in the games he scores a touchdown, he's close to 30 points. He scores points in such a unique way. In his peak season, where he had the 2nd best fantasy football season of all time, Christian McCaffrey was a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football if you removed all of his rushing. That's what you're getting with Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, you got to draft him, especially in PPR leagues. You got to get over the fear of Christian McCaffrey. Fear is not what wins you fantasy football leagues. Is Kupp's value worth more the upside of Adams on a new team? Kupp's better than Adams in fantasy this season. I would definitely take Kupp before Adams. Even though Allen Robinson's on the squad for the Rams now, Odell is still not a part of the Rams. There's talk that he could come back, but even if he does, Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford have a clear connection. And Matthew Stafford has a very long history, basically his entire career, of falling in love with one receiver on his team. He's played with some pretty great receivers, but Cooper Kupp deserves to be on that list, and it's not going to be surprising when he puts up another monster season. Is he going to have as good of a season as he did last year, which was one of the best wide receiver fantasy seasons of all time? Maybe not, but he's going to be a top 5 receiver in PPR leagues as long as he stays healthy. Devontae Adams, nothing against him, but he is not quite on that same level as Cooper Kupp. There's more uncertainty with Devontae Adams in fantasy, given that he's on a new team. About to be back on the clock again. And I absolutely know who I'm taking with this pick if he's not picked one pick ahead of me here. And I do want to talk about him on the live as well, because I know he gets picked. He gets sniped. We're going Robert Woods instead, which is fine. We've been ahead of Robert Woods all offseason, by the way. I've been saying this literally for 2 months now. Robert Woods is my bet to be the number 1 receiver on the Titans. Everyone was drafting Treylon Burks ahead of him. I actually think Treylon Burks got drafted ahead of him in this draft that I'm doing now too. I don't understand it. I don't understand why Treylon Burks would get drafted ahead of Robert Woods. He got drafted like almost a full round before him in this draft. I really, really like the upside for Robert Woods, but I was going to take Chase Claypool over him. Chase Claypool just got sniped in the YouTube draft I'm doing now. Again, you can watch the draft board live on YouTube if you're watching live on TikTok. And this is a real draft, $25 draft, and this is in a tournament with hundreds of thousands of people where the first place prize is $2 million. This could be a $2 million live stream for me right now. But Chase Claypool is a guy that I want to be drafting in rounds 9 and round 10 in my fantasy drafts. And I know he just recently made headlines for saying he views himself as a top 3 wide receiver in the league. And while I personally do love the confidence, he's clearly not a top 3 wide receiver in the league. He's really not even in the top 15 discussion. But I do think he's much better and much more talented than he gets credit for. And we have a new quarterback situation in Pittsburgh that can really shake things up. Over the last 3 years, it's been incredibly clear that Deontay Johnson was Big Ben's favorite target. He had almost over a 25% target share in every single game over the last 3 years. It's like 85% of the games for Deontay Johnson over the last 3 years, he's eclipsed a 20% target share. But that was with Big Ben, and he's not playing with Big Ben this season. We're going to go... I sort of want to go running back here. I don't hate Garrett Wilson and Christian Watson, but we're going to go with Chase Edmonds instead. Just finalizing my thought on Chase Claypool, it's not going to be Big Ben this season. And if Kenny Pickett, or who I expect to start week 1, Mitch Trubisky, like Chase Claypool more than Deontay Johnson, which is very possible given how talented Chase Claypool is, it won't be shocking to me when Chase Claypool is a better fantasy receiver this season than Deontay Johnson. It's just not going to surprise me that much. I think it's honestly more like a 50-50 toss-up than people realize. And then you go look at this draft board on YouTube right now. Look where Deontay Johnson got picked. Deontay Johnson was picked, let's find him, in round 4. He was the 41st overall pick. He got picked in round 4. Right around guys like DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, Jerry Jeudy, Juju Smith-Schuster, Terry McLaurin. Meanwhile, Chase Claypool got picked in round 9. There's a 5-round difference between Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. Where I personally believe it is much closer to 50-50 on which of those 2 guys is going to lead the Steelers in receiving this season. He is very talented. He's more talented than he gets credit for. He's not a top 3 receiver. But he's absolutely has the opportunity to out-receive Deontay Johnson this season. I like Deontay Johnson too, but if you're giving me 2 options, Deontay Johnson in round 4 or round 5, and Chase Claypool in round 9 or round 10, I'm going Chase Claypool 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Sam, I'm bored at work. Had to join in. What's going on, Jack? Looking forward to seeing you tonight for our 3rd training camp call. Appreciate you hopping into the live. This is Nick. Yeah, this is best ball. Best ball is a format in which your best players are automatically submitted for you at the end of each week. There's no in-season management for this draft that I'm doing right now. There's no adding, dropping, trading, starting, or sitting. None of that. So if your guy gets hurt, you're screwed. If you drafted Rob Gronkowski a month ago, you're screwed. But that's true for everyone, which is why it's fair. And it's also why roster construction is so important. Like, hopefully if you drafted Gronk over the last couple of months, you drafted 3 tight ends on those teams because you knew he might retire. But yeah, this is a best ball format. Kupp, Henry, or Cook if all top running backs are gone. Yeah, I would probably lean Kupp, especially if it's a PPR league. I'm going Cooper Kupp. I think the top 3 picks in fantasy this season in a PPR league should go Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and then Cooper Kupp. I think those are the very clear top 3, in my opinion, in a PPR league. Sam, the GOAT keeping us ready for the season. Let's go. Yo, the season's not that far away. And I feel like, 2 months ago when I was doing these lives, and I've been doing these lives, I think every single week for the last 2 or 2.5 months. So I've been drafting for a while now. Getting a lot of comments like, wow, can't believe you're drafting already. I'm not seeing as many of those comments anymore. I think we're getting very, very close to fantasy football draft season. And we're only 6 weeks away from the first preseason game. We're only 6 weeks away from the first preseason game. We're about 11 weeks away from the season. NBA is over, man. Got to get ready. Yeah, exactly. Especially the NBA draft tonight. I like how the NBA is doing it this year. Like, sort of just wrap up the NBA. Let's wrap up the NBA tonight. It'll be an exciting draft tonight. But yeah, then it's on to fantasy football season. The NHL playoffs about to end too, and we're about to get into the dead zone of sports where it's just baseball on. And the World Cup, by the way, should be on. The World Cup should be on. I'm going to take Jameson Williams with this pick. I know he's unlikely to be playing at the start of this season, but there is a chance for Jameson Williams to play week 1. Like, it's not 100% out of the picture yet. I think worst case scenario in my mind for Jameson Williams is he's playing in week 5. And if he's playing by week 5, that's good enough for me to take him in, what is this, round 11 right now. He definitely could win this best ball tournament. Again, I'm also going up against hundreds of thousands of people in this draft. It's interesting how you talk about value, Claypool versus DJ, any other wide receivers duos like that. Yeah, I think the other one that stands out to me the most is Robert Woods and Treylon Burks, who are getting drafted like right next to each other right now. And all reports out of the Titans camp so far is that Treylon Burks is looking more like the wide receiver 3 than even the wide receiver 2 on the team. And Robert Woods, everyone has been overweighting his injury a little bit too much. He's been ahead of schedule on his injury. He's looking like he's going to be ready for training camp, not even week 1. Like, he's going to be fully go for training camp. He's already been getting in reps with Ryan Tannehill. So yeah, I expect Robert Woods to be the pretty clear wide receiver 1 there. But in terms of average draft position right now, they're pretty much exactly the same. All right, we're back on the clock. I'm going to go with Devontae Parker. And I'm trying to, part of the reason I like taking these 2 last receivers I took in this best ball draft is my second quarterback that I'm going to draft. I'll probably take one in like round 14, 15, 16. And I want to be able to stack with that quarterback. And so Mac Jones and Jared Goff, 2 guys that I could get very late in this draft to stack with. Another reason I like taking Devontae Parker, Jameson Williams in these middle rounds. And also I already know too, I only need one more tight end. And so I'm going to wait a while and try to get one of these 2 guys late in the draft. Even Hayden Hurst is a guy that I'll consider later in the draft as my second tight end on this team. So right now I'm really just focused on hammering running backs, wide receivers. Why has Cook slipped to the end of the first round? I think it's a fantastic question. I think people are similar to the Christian McCaffrey situation, similar to the Saquon Barkley situation, and honestly similar to the Ezekiel Elliott situation. People are starting to get very concerned about Dalvin Cook being injury prone. And this is really the main reason that I could see why his draft price is getting pushed down. Again, if you come to the YouTube live and you actually look at the draft board and look at the first couple of rounds, Dalvin Cook went in the second round in this draft. And I've been seeing him go late first, early second round in almost every draft I've done over the last few months. And he absolutely could be the number 1 overall running back in fantasy if he just stays healthy for a full season. So yeah, it's really just that. And for the similar reasons as to Christian McCaffrey, like, I'm not going to shy away from taking Dalvin Cook because I'm scared of him being injured when he's currently fully healthy. Like, Dalvin Cook is at full health. He's going to be fully healthy for training camp. As soon as that changes, then I think you can start getting a little worried. Like, this is why I'm not drafting Michael Thomas. I think this is a different situation if they're currently actually injured. But if they're fully healthy and they just have a history of injuries, I don't think you should account for that like an insane amount. We aren't good at predicting who's going to get hurt because we don't know. Joe Mixon was, again, one of these guys last year, similar to where Dalvin Cook is getting picked. He was going like mid-second round last year because it was like a running joke. Oh, don't draft Joe Mixon because we just know he's going to get hurt. And he was one of 4 running backs to play every single game last year. World Cup prediction. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me back to the World Cup because I actually did one event about the World Cup. And I don't have a very strong prediction for you. I always think Brazil is one of the most talented teams and they just like somehow can't play defense. I remember really the last 2 World Cups, Brazil's team. And I played soccer in college. I'm not the biggest fan of watching soccer, but I'm very into international soccer. I'll watch every single World Cup game. And I'm furious about the World Cup situation this year. Because in any other time historically, we would be watching the World Cup right now, and it would fill this perfect time of in between basketball, NBA season, NHL season ending, and when football season starts. Right now, it's like just baseball, but it's not going on right now because the World Cup is in Qatar, where it's literally 120 degrees most days right now this time of year. 120 degrees in Qatar right now, which is why they have to do the World Cup in the fall. The World Cup's going to be on at the same time as football this season. There's going to be times where there are World Cup games on and there are NFL games on. It's just absolutely terrible scheduling. So I'm not thrilled about that. We're going to go with Jahan Dotson with this next pick, who has a legit shot to be top 2 receiver on the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders. But yeah, my prediction, I think that the USA are going to make it out of the group stage and make it an exciting run. I'm very excited for them. We have live golf, LIV golf. I'm not a huge golf guy. Honestly, I feel like it's even worse than soccer. Like I would much rather play golf than watch golf. But also watching golf, it always makes me feel just so horrible about how bad I am at golf. But yeah, we do have golf. That's like the Saudi Arabia League, right? The LIV League or something. I have been reading about it, but I'm not a huge golf fan in terms of watching it. All right, we're about to be back on the clock. Let's look at the quarterbacks left. I probably can get Mac Jones, Jared Goff with my next pick, so I'm not going to do that. I will take Noah Fant, though, with my next pick if he's still there. Though he could easily slide to my next 2 picks also. Who should I start week 1, Tony Pollard or Marlon Mack? Definitely Tony Pollard. We're nearing the end of this draft. We got, I think, 4 picks left. I'll talk through my team so far in just a second after I make this pick. Eckler or Kupp in a PPR league? It's got to be Kupp. I think it's got to be Kupp. I think the top 3 picks in PPR league, it goes Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp. I think those are the top 3 for me. And there's a little bit of a tight end run going right now, so we'll lean into that in this draft and secure our second tight end. Won't take another tight end in this draft right now. And Noah Fant is simply too talented to go as late as he's going. He is more talented of a tight end than every single other tight end that was taken before him that's on the screen right now. Every single tight end that was taken before him, he is more talented than. Will he have as much volume as those guys? Probably not, in one of the most run-heavy and worst offenses in the league. But the talent's going to shine through in enough weeks for it to justify a 14th round pick in this best ball draft. And I already have Mark Andrews too, so I don't need him to be consistent. Is Eckler number 4 then? Yeah, I would put Eckler probably number 4 in a PPR format. Yeah. I think that in this half PPR league, he actually went number 3. But I think there's a pretty good argument for Jamar Chase in that range as well. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson I've been seeing going very early. They went 2nd and 4th overall in this draft. The start of this draft, I didn't really realize it because I had the 9th pick. But the start of this draft was pretty wild. The draft I'm doing right now live on YouTube, it started Jonathan Taylor, then it went Justin Jefferson, then Austin Eckler, then Jamar Chase, then Cooper Kupp, then Christian McCaffrey. Why does this only happen when I don't have a pick in the beginning part of the draft? Please, can I have one draft where I get Christian McCaffrey at 6th overall? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That you can get Christian McCaffrey at 6th overall in a $25 draft with a $2 million first place prize. I am new to fantasy football. When does it start? So for me and people who just can't control themselves like me, it started a while ago. But for most people, fantasy football is going to start at like end of August. Like end of August, first week of September is really the peak of fantasy. But you want to get your research in before then. Like your research, really, you should be starting your research for fantasy in the beginning part of August. But your draft will probably be towards the back end of August. Late round league winners. Yeah, I think there are a lot of exciting potential late round league winners right now. I like Jahan Dotson, Jameson Williams, 2 rookies that are getting drafted really late as potential late round league winners. Jameson Williams, I do think will be healthy by that time. Just looking through some of the guys that were taken in this draft. I also like Rachaad White a lot. Another rookie that I think is going to surprise and come out of nowhere to a lot of people. In PPR formats, Rachaad White does fit the standard of a guy who is going to have standalone value in PPR leagues without injuries. And then all of a sudden, if Leonard Fournette, who is getting up there in age, gets injured, Rachaad White could win you your fantasy league. He was the best receiving back in this running back class, except maybe behind Breece Hall. But he actually was a more productive receiver than Breece Hall in college. And look who he's teamed up with. A Tom Brady who's going to be playing without Rob Gronkowski, who's going to be playing without Chris Godwin for likely the first month of the season. And we know Tom Brady loves to check it down to the running backs at all the right times. So, yeah, I absolutely love Rachaad White. You think Pulisic can carry us to a group win, huh? Yeah, I mean, our group's not that good. I forget all 3 teams in it. I actually think England was in it, but the other 2 teams aren't good, if I recall correctly. So we don't need to be first in our group to get out of the group stage in the World Cup. So yeah, I think US is going to get past the group stage. I absolutely cannot wait to watch them after them just completely embarrassing the whole country and not making the last World Cup. All right, we're about to be back on the clock. We're going to go quarterback here. And Mac Jones versus Jared Goff. I think I'm going to go with Mac and Cheese Mac Jones in this one. I did get Devontae Parker earlier in this draft. Let's just check the bye weeks really quick. Yeah, there's no bye week concerns. I'll probably take Zach Wilson's still there too. I'll probably take Jared Goff if he's there a little bit later in the draft and go with 3 quarterbacks. Yes, sir, Papa Sam. Is this the original WalterPicks? Yeah, this is the original WalterPicks. Yes, sir. You think Pulisic? Yeah, I do think Pulisic can carry us. Sorry, I'm reading the same comments. Let me pull back up the draft board. Let me talk through my team really quickly. So far, I think we got 2 or 3 picks left. 3 picks left. I got 2 quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones. Mac Jones, by the way, I just recently made a sort of multi-character video, sort of out of the much different than the usual type of video I make over on TikTok, asking about and sort of looking at who do you think the best second-year quarterback is? Mac Jones, if you're looking at completion percentage and efficiency, it was clearly Mac Jones as a rookie. He was by far the most productive rookie of the group. But I think you got a pretty tough argument to make to say he's going to be the best of the group of second-year quarterbacks. We have Trevor Lawrence, who was the first overall pick and is definitely still up there in terms of likelihood to be the best of the group. Trey Lance has tremendous upside. I still think Justin Fields, if he can get a little bit better of a supporting cast, and I'm actually going to take Gus Edwards with this next pick. I'll talk through that in a second, why. But Justin Fields could do it. And, of course, Zach Wilson has just so much better supporting cast than he did last year. But then you also have Davis Mills in the mix. And Davis Mills, when you actually dive into the numbers, Davis Mills had the 4th best deep ball completion percentage in the NFL last season. And his just general completion percentage wasn't that far off from Mac Jones. And he had even worse supporting cast. I think that bodes really well, too, for Brandon Cooks this season, who I just start to like more and more as I dive into the numbers. Because he's the clear wide receiver 1 on a Houston Texans team that's going to be getting crushed a ton this season with a young quarterback who's already shown he can be tremendously accurate with the deep ball. So I absolutely love Brandon Cooks this season. But yeah, I think it's a really good, interesting question to see who will be the best second-year quarterback this year. Year 3 of asking, is there an Android app yet? Yes. There is an Android app. Go get it. It is here. It has been here. We actually launched it at the very end of last fantasy season. But yup, we got an Android app. Go download it. It's completely free. WalterPicks on the Google Play Store. Pumped to be able to say yes to that question this year. And thank you for coming back and asking. I promised it would come. And it took longer than I'd hoped, but we got it, man. We got it. And it's going to be updated just the same as the iOS app throughout this season. So super pumped about that. Jared Goff got picked end of the 16th round. And so we will likely stick with 2 QBs on this roster. And I feel very comfortable with that because Jalen Hurts is one of the most consistent quarterbacks in fantasy. I took Gus Edwards with my last pick. So my running back squad right now, Najee Harris, Ezekiel Elliott, who I got in the 4th round, Kenneth Walker, who I think could be this year's Najee Harris. And I'm in with Samps, our Falcons creator, on the Kenneth Walker hype. Rashad Penny was super efficient last year. He was arguably the most efficient running back in the league, but he has really struggled to stay on the field his entire career. Like, I don't think most people realize this, but this is going to be Rashad Penny's 5th year in the league or 4th year in the league. He's been in the league for a while. And last year was the first year he had even a reasonable stretch of health, like even just like a month of being healthy. So, and most of his injuries have been hamstring injuries too, which tend to linger. Kenneth Walker was the 2nd most talented rookie running back in this class, and they spent high draft capital on him to use him. There's only a few times a year teams tell us what they're thinking, and one of them is in the draft. And they went and spent a 2nd-round pick on Kenneth Walker. So I like him a lot with where he's going too. I think I got him in around the 7th round in this draft. 8th round. I got him in the 8th round in this draft. Yeah, sign me up for Kenneth Walker in the 8th round. And then my last 2 running backs, Chase Edmonds, Gus Edwards. The latest report for Gus Edwards was that he's actually ahead of J.K. Dobbins in his recovery. And that's all I need to know to be able to pull the trigger on Gus Edwards at pick 184 on a team that's going to lead the league in rushing plays. Gus Edwards, he just needs to carve out 10 carries a game. He's going to easily return value at this cost. Again, I got him at the 184th pick. And in best ball formats, I don't need to guess what weeks those are going to be. All right, so we're only going wide receivers from here on out. Paris Campbell got snagged, which is disappointing. We're going to panic draft Bryan Edwards right now because we had no time on the clock there. I don't really love drafting Bryan Edwards as much as I did last season, but he does have a new home in Atlanta on one of the least talented wide receiver depth charts in the league after Drake London. He could end up being the wide receiver 2 on that team, even though they gave up very little to get him. There's very, very minimal wide receiver availability here. I'm actually going to go Nick Westbrook-Akine, though, with this next pick if he's there, who's at worst, Nick Westbrook-Akine is going to be the wide receiver 3 in the Titans, which isn't great, right? But we're talking about my last round pick. This is the 18th round we're talking about. The 18th round strategy that we're hashing out on the live right now. And if Nick Westbrook, the worst case scenario for my last round pick is he's a wide receiver 3, which means he's going to be playing over 50% of the snaps for the Titans this season. I'll take that. But the best case scenario is actually he's wide receiver 2, and Treylon Burks takes a little longer to adjust the NFL than people realize. And then all of a sudden, I've stacked the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 on a team at really very, very, very minimal cost. I didn't draft Ryan Tannehill in this draft, but I do like the floor ceiling outcomes for Nick Westbrook-Akine in the last round right now. Excuse me. It's hashtag allergy season. All right, we are about to take our last pick in this draft. It will be Nick Westbrook-Akine, who's been one of my favorite last round picks throughout this whole offseason, and I'll continue to like him. He's also very young and has room for improvement himself. Yeah, it's exactly. That is, Chris, you're right. That's what we did in 2014. That was a very fun World Cup. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the YouTube Live. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'll be doing these every single week leading up to the NFL season. I'm going to wrap up the live actually over on TikTok, answer as many questions as I can over there before officially wrapping up the live. Guys, have a fantastic rest of your day. Time is the most valuable thing we have, so seriously, thank you for spending some with me today.